Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared. It is January 10th, 2023. Happy Tuesday to everybody joining us. And as I mentioned yesterday, we're not necessarily completely refactoring how this show is structured, but I'm wanting to do a little bit more prepared and um, I would guess, scheduled uh, uh, overview of different areas of the market for each and every day. So if you weren't here yesterday, some of the approaches that we discussed are Monday. We're going to be looking at the overall market position, maybe just trying to get a sense of how the indices are going to be trading that week. Obviously looking at expected movement and some of the volatility readings, and then some of our risk factors, which are just in place in regards to some bigger picture changes or trends that might form. Tuesday, I think we're going to stick with some sector overview. So we'll dive into that pretty shortly. And with the sector overview, I'm going to eventually get into some industry review as well. If there is a strong or a weak sector, oftentimes it's due to one or two industries that might be outperforming or just leading or lagging the overall market itself. Those are often areas that as a trader, you may want to focus in on, looking for relative strength in regards to strength in the marketplace, and then stronger performance throughout a particular stock or industry. And then, of course, the opposite's true: relative weakness, and where can we identify those short opportunities? And then Wednesday and Thursday, we'll look a little bit more into some of the data that we've been receiving. We'll talk about the context of some of the economic reports that we're continuing to having to deal with in the marketplace itself. As a short-term trader, you need to know when those are coming and when to take advantage of them, but more so how they change the perception of market pricing, along with some future expectations, especially as we get some of the more important data reports. CPI, of course, coming this Thursday. And then we'll dig a little bit into some option trading as well, which I think will kind of just dovetail into Thursday, which allows us to have a more clean slate. We can maybe review how things have gone since covering some of the items on Monday, and then circle back with any specific setups or ideas for trade. So for today's session, I figure we just kind of look at a quick overview of how our indices are lining up this morning. I've got all four of sort of the major indices, the ES futures, so for the S&P 500, NASDAQ futures for NASDAQ 100, Dow Mini, so YM, and this will be for your Dow Jones 30, and then the Russell, Mini Russell here for the Russell 2000. So what you'll notice just on a higher level picture here is that for the most part, we're seeing some general downtrend structure in most of our indices. But of course, on the shorter term basis, we've had a significant recovery over the past couple of months, more notable inside of the Dow, which is what a lot of traders kind of observed as we got to the end of the year. The Dow not only outperformed for that 3-month period, but they also were able to break outside of the 200-day moving average, this sort of red indicator here. And more specifically, the last pullback that we've been experiencing has been holding the 200. So I think overall we should look at the Dow not only as a stronger indice, but also kind of showcasing some improvement of how the trend structure looks. And this is really important for changing longer term trends, is oftentimes you'll need to rally back, but more specifically, you need to change how this chart rallies from pullbacks. And really, it needs to hold something like a weekly higher low in order to gain a lot of confidence that this is going to continue, along with what the risk looks like if it does fail. Obviously, any failure inside of the marketplace in general would be perceived as sort of a short opportunity for the time being. But when you look at the rest of the indices, this is really the only improvement that we've seen recently. The ES futures are still trading underneath all of their key moving averages, and yesterday especially we saw a little bit of a price rejection for the time being. We're kind of caught within a rock and a hard place in regards to some of the price levels, but when we dig in a little bit further, you'll see that this pullback on a short-term basis is probably necessary. For one, getting outside of that balance range took a lot of energy, and when we were breaking out, we ran into a previous range. It was sort of a high and low area that the market wanted to push away from, but on the first attempt immediately found sort of that upper resistance and that upper supply, testing essentially the VPOC of that area. We'll look at that in just a moment. If I can get my cough to settle out. And then last but not least, or I guess second to last but not least, the NASDAQ, which should still be perceived as the weakest indice, not only the poorest performer last year, but additionally skirting near the relative lows. For the most part, this is the one that we want to see the most improvement on, simply because it is one of the risk-on type indices. We need to kind of have tech on our side for the rest of the marketplace to hold the rally. And while other sectors can perform, oftentimes when tech is being dragged back down, that indicates that the market will struggle, even if you have a lot of strength in other sectors. So losing tech or losing the NASDAQ is of critical importance, and we'll kind of see how that works in more of a sector overview when we get to that. And then last but not least, the Russell. For the most part, I don't focus too much on small caps, but similar to the S&P, there is sort of a US dominant and risk-on perspective in how small caps are performing, along with whether the market sees the rate sensitivity to these types of stocks as being persistent or more or less priced in. And one good thing that we might see from the Russell is reclaiming the 200-day moving average, simply because it shows the market is starting to look ahead past any sort of rate contraction and price contraction that we've seen from additional rate hikes. So any sort of cash or liquidity crunch, this often affects the small caps very strongly. We've seen a lot of that already take place last year. And the question is this now going to form more of a base for sort of a future outlook of some of these more risky type companies and some of the smaller market cap companies that are inherently dependent on loans and sort of borrowing cash in order to grow as a smaller entity. So let me grab some water here. Okay, so it's good to look back at these indices every once in a while just to understand that not everything should be treated the same, but there is a lot of correlation in the bigger picture aspect of how markets perform. And one thing that I've learned, especially last year, is if you can understand how your index is trading, for the most part, you don't really have to target a specific sector to be bullish or bearish. But what you might find is that some sectors are going to be a little bit better, especially to the downside. You'll see things like some extreme types of selling, and then back to the upside, trying to find that outperformance often comes a little bit later, but the type of rally and usually the slope of some of the trends will kind of tell you how strong the performance has been. So looking at some of those sectors is going to be important for learning how the market is going to move in 2023 and what sectors to pay attention to, especially not just the classic, like tech, financials, and healthcare. There might be some diamonds in the rough that we can start to dig out as we look a little bit deeper into some specific industries. So as I mentioned, let's kind of look at how the S&P performed yesterday. Once again, we tried to break out of balance. And one thing that's very common with balance range breakouts is attempts. The attempt itself feels strong, and usually you want to trust the short-term trends that are providing the breakout attempt. But once they start to roll back, understand that the give back can be as low as the breakout area. And what we're noticing here is that yesterday we did give back the entire session, but it took most of the morning in order to set that up. Obviously the morning session was perceived bullish simply because we had an uptrend. The entire marketplace is sort of pressing higher. And the argument here is that we were getting to some levels of extremity, more noted by maybe losing the uptrend and breaking the previous pivot. That kind of signaled that, one, this trend might be over. We need to go into a deeper consolidation. But two, because we were trying to break out, the last thing we want to lose is too much momentum. We don't want to sort of give back too much. We want the bulls to continue to hold control. And I think things on the session were pulling back to a sort of decent degree. I would even argue that holding here would have been relatively healthy. But now we're seeing sort of a deeper decline, one that is indicative that we might be back inside of our balance range. And I think we want to be really cautious here as we try to anticipate where some of these higher lows might form, just relative to the 2-day rally. We are looking maybe for like an hourly higher low to form, or something like a 4-hour higher low, just a higher time frame level to trade off of. But in this region, we're still back inside of our balance range. And that forms a bit of a problem as to getting back out. The last thing we really wanted to see was the session yesterday engulfing for the most part. And then now we're looking for a pullback, but that opportunity is really sort of limited. We're kind of trapped between too many contentious levels to anticipate a lot of major volatility that we saw yesterday. So be especially careful with the assumption today. I do not think the market will trade quite the same. And if we do decide to sell off even further, ideally bulls can form a short-term bounce, something that gets us maybe into a better position, and then we could start to roll from the highs, just giving us more room for that short trade to kind of express the risk. So if that's to be true, and as we kind of review the SPY as well, the levels in the SPY are going to be a little bit different, but ultimately setting up somewhere near the box, the range highs, the ones that need to hold as support. Could be a back test, and this is kind of what's important about today, but it has to be established. And I think right now we're in that moment of indecision. It's often usually somewhere in the middle of another middle. Lots of range on range kind of play here. It's usually hard to tell who's in real control of the price, but allow for the market maybe to determine that through these specific levels, reclaiming range high and even bouncing off of it. and then forming a new shorter term trend that we could start to use as our risk levels. So that's the overall S&P. As we look at how our sectors performed yesterday, and this is just the overall performance on the day, it was at first a very strong rally inside of technology. It was very risk on feeling. NASDAQ was leading for most of the morning session. And for the most part, the NASDAQ drew back in, but it still outperformed. It was still holding better than the rest of our indices. What we started to notice, though, was under the hood of the S&P, healthcare was a problem yesterday. There was weakness inside of healthcare. It was kind of facilitated by a couple of key stocks, but for the most part, a lot of underlyings in healthcare were lagging on the day. As the market rose, healthcare was either stalled or even some of them breaking to fresh lows on the day. And that hidden divergence eventually kind of found itself into weakness later into the session as we lost technology strength and as arguably some other key sectors like financials and a little bit of industrial weakness kind of crept in as we were pulling back. So once again, it's just a day, it's just a session, but I'm noticing a lot of divergence and sort of the bifurcation of one sector leading, one sector lagging. If you want to be a bull on the session, you often have to find where strength and weakness lies, and you often want to target those specific stocks simply because they're going to perform better throughout that period. And once the rest of the market decides to top, then you could start to focus on sort of a high to low trade or some sort of pullback type trade, with the understanding that yesterday was a full reversal, a little bit more rare than what we often see at the highs. The second thing I wanted to show is instead of just looking at how the sector ETFs are performing, which is commonly what we do, I wanted to show a different way to view sector performance. And what I have here, I'm using TradingView for this. I find that it works better for some of the ratio pairs, is you can often map out different sectors or even a stock that you're focused on. You know, it doesn't really matter what the ticker is, and you can compare how it's performing relative to the index. Now, for most of these sector ETFs, you probably would want to compare them to the S&P, but you don't necessarily have to. You can compare them to each other. You can compare them to something like how it performs with regard to different asset classes. Like if you ever wanted to see some of the ratio performance of maybe a gold versus the dollar, oftentimes you can chart this out and kind of see how that correlation is expressed through performance of the asset. But some things that you might want to keep in the back of your mind as we move into this year. One thing that I've been reviewing is how the trend structure of a lot of these relative performance graphs look on a higher time frame. And like most higher time frames, it's going to take a little bit of data to kind of confirm whether something is truly changing. But one thing that you'll notice is during periods of, let's say, financial risk, when the marketplace is struggling and when the overall risk on behavior of the marketplace is withdrawn, usually defensive sectors are leaders. It's not to say that they're not going to go down temporarily, but they often will be more stable. They won't have as significant of a drawdown, and from a relative percentage, they'll often outperform, aka hold better or actually have some outperformance on the year, on the month, whatever time frame you're sort of targeting. So you can kind of notice this cyclicality through some of the worst periods throughout history. For example, 2008 to 2009, get this a little bit better highlighted. You can notice things like XLU, which is your utilities sector, very defensive in nature simply because the earnings growth and the overall financial outlook of these companies is stable throughout periods of hardship. They're not as sensitive to rate changes. They're not as sensitive to economic condition. And simply the idea is that you still have to pay your utility bill no matter if everything else is falling apart. What you'll notice is the market tends to rally inside of this ratio pair whenever you have financial challenges. And for the most part, this is temporary. It's a period of time about performance, and it's cyclical in that you need to be selling throughout the bottoming process of, let's say, the S&P, because in the longer term perspective, utilities tend to underperform. Not to say that if your timing is good, you can't necessarily trade or have maybe a year or two of outperformance, but oftentimes in the grand scheme, it's much better to be invested in, let's say, the S&P 500, just because of the outperformance historically. As the years have gone on, there has been some structural changes in how this ratio has I guess performed, and review how the structure has overall been a downtrend, which simply means that over time utilities will rally, they'll come back in, and most of the time the S&P is advancing or trending inside of its, of course, secular bull market that we were experiencing from 2009 to so far 2023. And for the most part, we are still within a secular bull market on the higher time frames. This correction has not really ended the secular bull market from the perspective of certain time frames. But one thing you'll notice here is that oftentimes there are short-term periods, and these are multiple months of that outperformance. For example, the last really low to high transition we've seen recently was throughout the entirety of maybe the first 6 months, if not 9 months of 2022. And what this means is that during that period, if you had been invested in XLU, you didn't necessarily see a lot of strength in your portfolio, but you outperformed the S&P, aka your portfolio held up much better than the 20 to 25% drawdown that we saw last year. What we're noticing as well is most of the time, this is where the outperformance should be ending. This is where rejections occur in this ratio, and it's often where things start to shift back into risk on type performance, going more from defensive back into, let's say, the S&P's general outperformance and the leadership that comes from it. But what's interesting here is that this is a multi-year bearish channel. It's got, lower highs and lower lows throughout. Most of the time when you peak, you often make a fresh low, and that's usually signaling, another maybe 1 to 2 years of outperformance inside of utility. So one could argue that this is a 3 to 5 year cyclicality chart, where if you mark highs and you mark lows, that kind of tells you a peak to trough period. And then you could sort of review to the next cycle high, maybe here or here. And that, of course, is a, once again, this is about 5 years right here. Now, this might seem, just kind of like an interesting history lesson, but really what I wanted to show is what's been happening over the past couple of months. XLU has been coming back into favor. It's been outperforming the S&P in that short period, just 1 to 2 months of relative outperformance. You can kind of see that if you look across just a general performance of, let's say, the past 3 months. You'll notice here utilities are up 11%, and the S&P is only up about 7%. So once again, there's other sectors that are strong. There's other sectors that have been pushing throughout that period. But one of our defensive ones is strong as well. It's kind of adding to that strength. And from the perspective of the ratio, it's also testing the channel once again. Now, what I am looking for here is a clear indication that this structure might be changing. And one thing we'll be on the lookout for, once again, multiple months of data would be required, but we'll be looking to see how this review of a breakout setup starts to form over the next couple months. Because if the market is still in a period of, let's say, defensive nature, looking more towards defensive type sectors, not only will this channel break out, but this is a multi-year channel. So the expectation of this breakout may be much higher than previous setups. Essentially the potential of this move, one could argue, kind of falls within the pattern of the breakout. Something as simple as an inverse head and shoulder and the measured move of outperformance along with the period in which that measured move takes place, something like a peak to trough kind of expansion. So this is one example that I wanted to give. And for the most part, you can use platforms to set up something like a ratio pair. Different platforms have different ways to kind of show these relative charts. So you may simply just want to look up which platform you're using. And remember, you can do this with any ticker. So you can see how your particular stock is performing relative to the index or just relative to the sector it belongs to. The key here is noticing where there is strength. And as you kind of review different sectors, there is outperformance, but there's also periods of give back, periods of a slight drawdown. And those are going to be a little bit of a challenge to sort of understand whether the market is topping or the market is simply giving you another opportunity to step into relative strength. And I think that's kind of the lead and the lag of this entire market is we're seeing a lot of this day to day. We're seeing this on weekly cycles, especially any sort of trend that starts to form. But we're also seeing larger monthly and just higher time frame structures either breaking out. Here's an example of one where we're getting not only relative outperformance in industrials, but they're breaking previous pivots. And the technical idea here is that this is not only showing strength now, but it's showing even more relative strength from a previous period of outperformance. So these are often how you can start to find candidates that not only are good buy setups on, let's say, trends, but oftentimes when they do expand, they'll expand much better than other stocks who are rising at the same time. It's the idea that the outperformance will continue simply because there's more skin in the game. There's more money flow coming into a sector for whatever reason, and that's for us to identify. So with all that said, my name is Jared. This is Engineering the Market. It's a little bit of an early session to kind of show this, but this is some tools that we'll be using in the future. And I'll start to layer in other ways to view market performance. We'll use that to kind of get a sense of where we should be focused as traders, and for the most part as positional traders and investors as well. So Stay tuned for pre-market prep. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk more tomorrow.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to PreMarket Prep. I hope everyone's having an amazing morning. Hopefully, you guys had an incredible day yesterday. Good morning, Norm. How you doing today?
Hey, good morning, brother. I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing good, my friend. Doing good. Glad you're doing all right.
Day two of this 5-day week. Just gonna slog through it.
I was thinking about that yesterday. I'm like, oh, it's Wednesday, and I could have bet money it was Wednesday when I woke up. Like, no, it's only Tuesday, man. We got some ways to go here. Um, Guys, welcome. Let's take a look at some of the fun stuff we had yesterday on our list. And what a great day it was for trading. Here's what I had. I had starting with Baba here, which again gapping up today one more time. This thing just very strong. But here's the action yesterday. Let's zoom into our 5 minute right over here. Here we go. So if you guys remember, this thing was actually gapping up pretty nice, right? You had a nice gap up on this one. And then eventually at the market open, it just sold off. But it was a nice sell off. And I did mention this can go either way. Unfortunately, I missed this pullback to VWAP there for the drop. But look how beautiful this setup was, right? Right to the VWAP, cannot hold this. And then you get this beautiful drop down to all the way to 108, guys. From let's just take the VWAP, right? Let's not even take the top of this. The VWAP at 111.50, right? So just a nice drop. Guys, be careful with this ticker. You don't need to take a whole bunch of shares, right? This ticker moves quite a bit. Nice reversal, right? All the way to VWAP and then to almost to the high of the day. Couldn't quite get to it. From there, it went sideways. But if you were not watching Baba, there were plenty of things in play, guys. Let's look at Tesla. Tesla had a little bit of a rough start, some back and forth action. And this is where, being patient with your process pays off. So if you're patient here, I hate these candles when they start like this in the 5 minute. That's why I like waiting, 3 to 5 minutes at times, because it gives you an idea. Okay, what is happening? Let's let this volume settle down. And once it does, it takes a bit. Around 10:45, 9:45, excuse me, you see this beautiful breakout towards the high of the day with a nice continuation. Not much after that, though. I'll show you some better things that we had on deck. Kind of went sideways a bit here. So Tesla not really doing a whole lot there. Unlike Nvidia, we'll look at AMD next, which is on my secondary list. But I was watching it yesterday because you guys were calling out some really great stuff there. Look how beautiful this thing does. Does a slight engulfing pattern here and then just takes off, guys. Never looks back. I mean, this was an incredible move there. It gives you a pullback to the 9 almost. And then from there it takes off again, breaking the high of the day at that time. Then mid-afternoon action was not great on many of these stocks, just kind of going sideways, so not giving you a whole lot there into later parts of the afternoon, where you kind of got a little bit of a drop there. Apple, same situation here, but much better because it didn't stay flat for long. It actually started feeling really toppy the minute it made a new high here, went sideways, never tested the high, and then here starts wrapping below the 9, below the 20, which is a good sign here. Look at this beautiful drop, basically right back to where it opened up. So, I mean, Apple gave you place long and short yesterday. Plenty of opportunities there. Here's Amazon, which again, not as clean, but did give you an initial breakout there. Nothing compared to Nvidia, Apple, and I'm going to go right to it. AMD, guys. I mean, AMD, another one that also traded very well. Quick engulfing pattern here, guys. Does sell down, sells back up. And the great thing about this strategy is that if you're not sure here to go long, when you get this pullback and you see that pressure coming back up, that is a great indication. Let's get in for this breakout. And many of you guys did. And just look how beautiful this thing traded, guys. Holding on to the 9. Never really looked back into later parts of the day. So again, just so much to trade. Even Futu yesterday, even FUTU did some stuff. And we had an incredible short, a very wild open, but an incredible short below the VWAP here, guys. This thing went from 47 down to 44, try to retest some of the moving averages, and then drop some more to 45.50. So if you guys were on the onboarding class yesterday, you know what happened here. We discussed this. It was a whole lot of fun. So, all right, excellent, guys. Let's look at some of the stuff we have today here. It's going to be over on our gappers list. So far at the moment, a couple of things in the green, which are some weird tickers I never heard of besides XBEV, right? So not a whole lot great there. And then gapping down, I see some weird tickers as well besides Google and CLH, our buddy HKD on deck. So
might be your buddy, not mine. I won't claim that as my buddy.
We'll definitely jump into that right after our market pulse and kind of see what's going on throughout the entire market.
Yeah, small business index 6 a.m. came out this morning. Hadn't done a lot. Wholesale inventories revision at 10 a.m. The big one today is Jay Powell speaking at an event in Sweden at 9. Good thing is that starts before the market opens, so we'll get a feel for what happens. But it'll be interesting in about 20 minutes when he takes the stage and starts talking, how the markets react. We've had some, in the short term, we've had a little bit of strength, but nothing too crazy. We'll see how things go. The big one is on Thursday. We've got no data tomorrow, but on Thursday we've got a few Fed speakers. But at 8:30 Thursday morning, we've got CPI for December, inflation info that'll make or break things.
Yeah, that's the big day there, big release we're waiting for. See how things react here. All right, guys, let's get to it. Let's go to our list this morning. I'm gonna go Control A, Control X on our DAS watch list here. Clears that up, and let's go through this list. See what we have here. OSH this morning. This thing is up 32.5% right now, 484,000. I don't like the volume of the pre-market activity at the moment. Looks like this thing started going last night after hours.
Yeah, there's a rumor of a takeover by CVS on this. So it's not trading like a buyout, but who knows?
Yeah, usually that news is not great. A great catalyst to day trade, but we will see. Now, rumors could be interesting though, right?
Yeah.
If something comes out, rumors. Yeah, it could be interesting. If it comes out that's not the case, we've seen some pretty aggressive plays, right? Or if it is the case, you can see a continuation here. So, got to be tapped into the news on this, guys, if you're going to be watching this one. I'm not a big fan of that. I think it is still something that you can watch, especially if the news comes out that that's not happening. Well, you know what's going to happen here. We're slamming back down to 23.22. Should happen, but you never know. Nothing is for sure in the stock market. Now let's look at NUWE. This is 287,000 shares flow. Can it be any lower? And this morning we're up 13.2. Hard to borrow. SSR. Just a lot of negative stuff.
Red flags,
here.
maybe.
Yeah, red flags all over the place here on this one. So
they pre-announced, they pre-released some earnings, revenue results for fourth quarter this morning. So.
Yeah.
Their earnings aren't for a bit, but they kind of gave an idea of what things are going to look like.
Yeah. So not ideally something we look at. So we will skip on this one. Let's look at CVAC. So CVAC this morning, they're up 12.5, 784,000. And I think we brought this up yesterday. I did not keep it on my
this
list.
one's been, this news is not fresh. They have COVID vaccine news that came out within the last few days. This has been on the gappers list at least yesterday and maybe even last week in anticipation. So
again, not a fan of these lower price stock and just how volatile this could be. It's not a low flow, sitting at 56 million. But again, if you are going to watch this, be careful. I prefer to watch something slightly different. Let's take a look at XBEV today. XBEV this morning up 3.2, 1 million shares traded. But that pre-market action right now is not reflecting that type of volume. So I don't think there's a whole lot going on. I don't really think it is in play at the moment. We just need to get more information pre-market wise. Kind of stuck in a range between 1050 and what seems to be like 983 or something. A few times breaking out of that, but for the most part, that is your main range on there. I don't see anything great unless we start breaking out of that 1050. Let's look at what's gapping down. We do have EURN, and this is down 17% today. Not a great daily. Doesn't trade a whole lot of volume. It looks foreign. NV is Netherlands, right? I believe.
Yeah, it's Belgish.
Okay. So
no, it's Belgium. It's out of Belgium. I had somebody say something was Belgish a long time ago. I thought it was funny. So sorry about that. No offense. Anyway, it's out of Belgium. Probably not the greatest trader of all time.
Belgium makes my favorite beer, so a great place. Guys.
Cheers.
Yeah. It's you guys know what it is. Anyone from Belgium here in the chat?
Yeah, there are. I've known members from Belgium here.
Very nice. All right, excellent. Guys, let's take a look here. EURN. We looked at that. That's right down. Next one, ILMN. This is not looking good. Higher price stock. Very. The spread is all over the place on this one. So I don't really like it. I don't see anything great. Norm, what stock is this?
They pre-announced yesterday, I believe. And then they've got some other corporate actions going on and some regulatory stuff in the EU. Not a huge fan of it, frankly.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like what I'm seeing here in the pre-market neither. Again, a lot of names here, guys, that we know that if we don't see often or at all, they're not great. AC75. Yeah, you guys got it. Stella's my favorite beer for sure. Armed this morning, they are down 10%, 117,000. It looks nasty, man. And we've seen this before, Norm. We didn't like. I don't think I ever traded it. It's just horrible.
Brian has it for fun on his list quite a bit recently. I haven't seen anything super exciting myself.
Yeah. So not a fan of this one, guys. HKD. It's not getting any better as we're going through this gap down list. We will have a good day. Because depending on what Powell does.
I think once Powell starts speaking,
right.
we'll get some moves.
But man, the garbage is shining here on this gappers list this morning until Powell talks and the SPY starts moving.
It's not a shine, that's a blaze.
Yes, thank you. That's a blaze. Absolutely. It's definitely a blaze. Let's go to NCLH. We haven't seen this in some time, and it's because it's not really in play, right? 274,000. It's nothing for NCLH or CCL or any of these tickers. I'm not sure why they're getting a 3% drop. They really haven't been gapping much lately, but this is not interesting at all. Let's take a look at HT. This is no good, guys. No volume, down 2.7. Again, just and we've seen this before. It trades horrible, very, very light volume. Again, for the way we trade, not ideal. All right, let's see something good finally, I think. Here's BA. BA is gapping down 2.6, so I do like that. Can't stress too much the volume because they don't get a whole lot of volume sitting on the New York Stock Exchange, as you guys know. Any news, Norm, making BA interesting today?
BA just recently popped up. Let me see if I can find anything this morning. They did get a downgrade out of Morgan Stanley, equal weight from overweight, $220 price target. I think this is just a function of it being up so much over the last few months. This thing's been grinding higher since September, October, and now maybe they're thinking it's a little overbought.
Yeah, I mean, guys, look at the rip here. November, October, like Norm said, we were sitting at 125, 121. This thing went to 215 almost. So it has had an incredible run, getting a bit of a pullback here. This could be a good one today. Again, we'll see how that goes. All right, so more on here. OHI, no good. Just started to show on our gappers list. We'll see where that goes. So not a whole lot happening there. And then we have Google, which is not a great trading ticker, but today they got some good volume. So any news that they're moving quite aggressively this morning?
Actually, there is big news on Google. Microsoft is investing in what is it? OpenAI,
ChatGPT
creator, and that is seen as something to possibly help that little used search engine that called Bing.
Bing, yes.
They can incorporate that technology into Bing. Will that be a Google killer, or at least take some market share? That's a concern.
Yeah, Google better get on it, man. I went on this open chat GPT thing. It is pretty impressive, and if Microsoft is going to spend that type of coin, you could just see it. You could just think about how much better it's going to get. But it's pretty wild, man. The stuff that you can kick out of that. So I won't say it's a Google killer, but it's going to hurt them. It's going to hurt them.
Being asked, Chad is asking, and this is a good question, so we might as well bring it up. Why would GOOGL perform slightly different than GOOG? They are different share classes. This, you see it a good amount. That there are multiple companies that have this. Usually it has to do with voting rights, preferred shares versus common shares. There are a number of differences that there can be. GOOGL typically trades with greater volume. So
the
GOOGL is the common stock class A. That's if I was going to trade this, and I don't think Google's a great trader, but if I were to choose, I would choose the one with higher volume, and therefore GOOGL.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. Google doesn't trade very, very good, but today with that news and the way it's doing right now, 609, it could be interesting today. So we would usually not have this on our list, but today could be interesting. Let's see how it actually trades at the market open. And again, a lot could change once Powell talks. It can overshadow a lot of these tickers that are on this list. Well, I hope so. I hope so. How many tickers can you watch? You can watch as many as you like, as many as you can, as many as you're able to focus on. I like to watch about 6. Some moderators like to watch even less, maybe 2. Right. So it all depends on your strategy, what you're looking for in your stock selection. Right. So there's no set number. But I know this could be too much, right? 10, 15, even 8 starting out. Shoot, even 5 starting out when you're first new could be too many. Right. So because it's a lot of stuff to focus on. So you kind of build that, start watching 3, 2, and then slowly you build up until you're comfortable. But you get to a point where too much is just, you're not focused anymore. You're just kind of, all over the place a little bit. So more is less in that situation, or less is more. Yeah, less is more in that situation. All right, guys, let's get to our company events and announcements while we coming up here. Actually, no, wait, you forgot something. Norm, what do you like this morning?
I'm still looking, man.
Yeah.
Usual suspects. I want to see what transpires when Powell takes the stage in 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, I know
I think that's
gonna
part of
change
why
quite a
we've got a
bit.
bunch of no names on
Mhm.
here right now. Is predominantly is that there's a little bit of anticipation on that.
Yeah, guys, we're gonna come back to your tickers. I'm not gonna forget, but let's get the announcements out of the way so then we could be ready for when the stuff gets released in 10 minutes, right? So let's do that now, and we'll come back.
Yeah, every Monday night you've got onboarding technology with Carlos, 8 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to check that out, especially for newer traders. Great way to get your feet wet and find out how the community operates and everything else. Tuesday nights we save for strategy. Andrew had his 920 strategy last night. That will be posted very soon this morning if it's not already. In case you missed it, and the next Tuesday, 8 p.m. is Thor talking, kind of giving a general overview of his book and discussing that. So check that out. Wednesday strategy. Tonight we've got Kreda back, 5 p.m. Eastern. She's going to be talking about finding your mental edge. And then next Wednesday, Mike, and that should say 8 p.m., we'll be talking about identifying what money means to you. Today is Tuesday. Oh my God, 4-day weeks. Thank you, Mike.
I'm gonna
My
jump on and
Lord.
help you with that. I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah,
I thought I was messed up.
no. So I
See,
guess
when you're a
Andrew
trader,
tonight.
guys, when you're a full-time trader, you lose track of days. This is what happens when you don't.
Well, it especially happens when they throw you a couple of, my mental edge is shot, apparently. It especially happens when they throw you a couple of 4-day weeks, right? You get all messed up.
Oh, we got so
Tomorrow
used
night,
to
you've
that.
got Crate at 5 p.m. talking about finding your mental edge. And then Mike next week, uh, 8 p.m. talking about identifying what money means to you. Thursdays is for mentorship, 11 a.m. with John and 8 p.m. with Thor. Tradingterminal.com, where we are building out professional tools for retail traders. It's a couple of the biggest that people spend thousands of dollars a year for: scanners and the replay simulator. So be sure to check that out. It is free at tradingterminal.com. San Diego meetup, guys, March 2nd and 3rd, live trading summit, 2-day event. Be sure to go there, check it out. You can link from the homepage, look at the full schedule of events. Carlos has some of those posted there to give you an idea, but it's going to be a awesome, packed couple of days. We'll be meeting in San Diego. Bring your family. You can come and have dinner. I'm bringing mine. So bring your family, get to meet everybody and hang out, have dinner together, and have some fun. Then we still do have one seat left for Peak Capital Trading. You can go to peakcapitaltrading.com for the boot camp. Started last night. That is recorded. It was one orientation session. You're not missing anything. If you'd like to take a part of it, go over there and check that out. I think we're going to have an awesome few months of some intense training and mentorship. And then if you would like to try out the room, you haven't been in, you can use the promo code PreMarket34. That's PreMarket34. It'll get you a discount off the membership. And it's one-time charge. It will not, for that intro membership, it will not repeat, will not recur. And you can use the promo code WINTER50 to get half off the Elite Annual.
All right, Norm. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, let's get to it. Couple of minutes before information is out, Powell starts talking, so we'll be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, guys, let's take a look at.
Just ahead. It's there's no information. It's just a speech.
Yeah, just a speech.
So there's no data coming in.
Yeah,
but
data will be
what he
Thursday.
says in his tone could determine how the market acts, at least for the next couple of hours. So it should be it could be interesting. I'll be monitoring it, as I am usually when Carlos is doing levels. I'm quiet and off the camera, but if I hear anything significant or see anything, I will pop in.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, let's get to what you guys like this morning. We haven't done that. I saw someone threw out Tesla, and of course, I think Tesla will be in play today. Has been, since forever, I think. So yeah, Tesla is going to be on our list for sure. Already 3.7, pretty much flat. And Jason, you're right. This is why things are somewhat flat, and our list is made up of tickers that don't look all that hot, and that some of them we probably never even heard of, right? So that is why once Powell does his thing and shakes up the markets like he always seems to do, up or down, we will get some things going here. So That is kind of like what we're waiting for. But in the meantime, there are some things that look okay. I do like BA this morning as we looked at. Google has that Chat GPT news with Microsoft. It's not good for them. Tesla here also been very active. Doesn't need any news really. Tesla just does his own thing regardless. I mean, green this morning, down right now, back towards the previous day close. Just the volatility you're getting on Tesla. I mean, I haven't seen a ticker move like this for so long in a very long time, since forever, right? On his own news, it just doesn't matter. It's just doing his own thing. So the volatility on Tesla is just amazing. Let's take a look at Baba. So I see some of you guys calling that out. Yeah, Baba has been, I mean, it's been great, guys. Again, up another 1.7. I knew there was, not new, but I kind of expected a sell-off yesterday. We did get that, but it recovered pretty well. You know, it was a big gap up. So you got some profit taking, some drops happening with some market pressure maybe. And you're back up here again this morning, 1.7 with some incredible volume. So yeah, I do like Baba this morning, looking really good so far. What else do we have here? What are some good to identify ORBs? Oh, Maca, that's a great question, but we won't have the time to answer it here. I do have an ORB webinar in the education center. Just go in there and search ORB opening range, and it'll come right up. And we go deep into how to identify these. What's a good ORB? What's a bad ORB? But that webinar, it's recent too. It's about a month ago. It's got some new examples on there. And as I'm trading now already this year, I already got some more new examples. So we'll do that class again in a couple of weeks with some brand new examples. And if you take my classes, right, we got a little time from like 2 years ago, the one from like a few months ago, and the one I'm going to do next, the setup is exactly the same, has not changed, right? So it's a strategy that that works very, very well. Some market conditions are better than others. But yeah, definitely take a look at that webinar. It's going to dive into that. Let's take a look at Meta. See a few of you guys throwing that out here. We'll look at coin next from our buddy AC75 on YouTube. Here right now we have down 1.3, 231,000. Yeah, it's okay. I don't know. Meta for me, it's one of these tickers that I would like to trade, but it doesn't seem to give me a great opportunity for what I'm looking to trade. And when it is moving well, there are other things that are just keeping it in the back seat. Like AMD will be crushing it, Nvidia will be crushing it. So it's tough to trade a Meta when other things that I know can trade much better with much volume are not moving well, right? So that's just me. I'll add as possible. There could be some opportunities here. And keep in mind, we're not going to add a whole lot to this list because we want to give space to after our friend Jay Powell does his thing, right? So we'll have to wait for that as well. What else we got? So we got a coin. Let's take a look how coin is reacting this morning. We got some volume here, down 2.4. Could be interesting. But again, this is one you want to wait for Jay Powell to do his thing. So I'm not sure if you're going to pick on this one or another one to watch this morning. But it's active. It's more active than what we were used to seeing it. Has not been a great trader though. Has a couple of breakouts here that's done very well, but for the most part, it's been pretty flat as far as movement, right? So it has not been one of our go-to tickers. This morning, volume is higher than usual, so that's great. But we'll have to see how that's going to play out at the market open. So we'll take a look at that in a bit later. Carlos, how come Baba, Neo, etc., GAP from the Asia markets a lot, but sometimes not like today? Oh, gap a lot, but not like today. Oh, it's because of when foreign tickers tend to do that, right? Let me get, no, I'm not gonna call it. Let me get a foreign ticker. TSM is a foreign ticker. Because remember they have their own market, so things are moving. The change of the dollar and stuff like that. That also has an effect on it. So this is why Bud, yeah, Bud is a good one.
The worst.
Yeah, this is it right here. Look at the gap. It's gapping up and down every single day, and it's because of that, because their markets are open, right? Before hours, and there's something else with the US dollar and the currency, right? Rates that also affects this as well. So yeah, there's one that's all over the place. That's why you see that. And typically Bud is a horrible day trading ticker. I mean, brutal, guys. I would never trade this. It just doesn't trade very well. And you have some other ones like TSM that do that also. They have these gaps, but Bud is a great example. Norm, thank you. This is pretty bad here. And no volume, guys. 1.3 million. It just doesn't really get any volume. For day trading this thing, it's a nightmare. Nightmare. Let's take a look at Mara today. Mara, no, this is not really any good anymore. It's just been so crappy lately, especially under $10 here. It reminds me of the fun stuff we saw yesterday with our we stocks. They're just not fun at that price for me, at least. Microsoft is going to start moving
A heads up,
now.
Pal's taking the stage, so things are
Yeah,
moving.
yeah, things he hasn't said nothing yet. These things are moving. Just the way maybe there's a tracker on the way he walks up to the stage, right? If he goes left, right, and depending on which way he goes. Kind of crazy stuff out there. But this should get interesting very soon here, the minute he opens his mouth. So we'll see here. But Microsoft reacting. Let's take a look at the SPY here. SPY also reacting positive, at least bullish at the moment. So yeah, watch this gappers list change quite drastically now, especially the SPY is going to be pushing green here. Harry, correct. The color of his tie might be looked at as whether it's a positive or negative statement. You just never know. And guys, we're absolutely kidding. We don't know that for a fact. Let's see here. What do we have? I saw a question earlier, talked about, do we trade options? Donovan, no. Donovan, good to see you in chat. No, we don't trade options. I haven't tried that. I don't know if it's old news on the Microsoft investing in chat AI, but I think it's been more publicized the last couple of days, especially yesterday. There's a lot of articles on it. So maybe they've been talking about it and it hasn't been, front and center. But yesterday was kind of like confirmation. Okay, we are really looking into this, right? So that kind of gave it a little more juice. And that's why Google's reacting to it this morning. Because again, it is a very, very interesting piece of software. I went in there and I just started throwing stuff at it, and it kicked back some pretty decent stuff, right? And you could just picture a company like Microsoft giving it $10 billion. Man, it's gonna boost or charge that thing. So scary, but very interesting. I find it extremely hard to manage risk when day trading options. Interesting. Options, I think, could be easier because you know exactly what you're risking, right? But it depends on your trading, right? Everything could be risky depending on how you're setting it up. So you gotta be careful. All right, so far, just kind of stalling a little bit here, letting this thing play out, see how the SPY is gonna settle down here. And right now, looking good at the moment. Let's see how we're going to agree. 1241 agree over on YouTube. We'll see how we can benefit from this move that we're getting here, and this is going to dictate a lot how the market open is going to be, right? So we'll see that there. We looked at Meta earlier today. I have it on my secondary list. Starting to get some volume here, but a lot of things you start to get some volume now with the SPY moving. So let's take a look at some of our usual suspects like AMD. So if I look at AMD here, actually not a whole lot of volume yet. Not a whole lot of volume. Nvidia, nope. Apple, pretty quiet. So you know what? Let's go back to Meta here. So Meta, it is getting some interesting volume then, because nothing else is getting this type of volume. So that could be interesting. If we continue, right? It's only one candle here, 60,000. We need a little bit more, obviously. But I have it here as my possible, so I will be taking a second look at that as we get closer to the market open. That's for sure. Check out NUWE. I did. We did look at this earlier. And here's my concern, stock pigeon, with this thing is that did it hit 13 something yesterday? It did, right? 13. Yeah, right over here. Maybe in after hours, but you got to be careful with this thing. I mean, the flow on is 287,000. Lower price stock here. You just got to be careful with this thing, man. It doesn't look, for me, for the way I trade, this doesn't look great. So I won't be keeping an eye on it, but just be careful. Hard to borrow, SSR, and this flow is tiny. I mean, you can really get kicked in the face, guys, here without even, without even seeing it come. So just be very careful on this thing. All right. SPY. Oh man, this is good. Can we get a continuation here? This is gonna light things up. SPY is trying to go green here. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah, so now if we get some kind of if we go green, things are going to start moving nicely. Amazon, yeah, Amazon green already. So now here we are. Now we're starting to open up the floodgates very nicely here. AMD also getting into the green territory. Let's look at some of the favorites. Going to be Apple. We're gonna look at that one. That should be also moving nicely, as you can see, from red to green easily. And one that has been doing amazing for me is Nvidia. Nvidia, guys, has been really, really good as well. Tesla, there we go. Tesla's doing its thing, 119 to 120. So yeah, our list is just gonna change drastically here. And with this type of market activity, usual suspects are going to be heavily in play this morning. We got Baba also, which I like a lot this morning as well. It's just how strong this thing has been. Now you add some market strength to it, and that can, help it continue whatever its plan is here, because it's got a great plan at the moment. The way is playing out. So a lot of good stuff happening there. Microsoft popping up. Yeah, everything, guys, is going to be heading up. Now the question is going to be, at the market open 9:30, is the SPY looking to hold this, right? Are we going to be holding this type of momentum, or are we going to be slamming back down to this range, right? If you guys remember, we talked about this yesterday, which has been stuck in this range in the last, since mid-December, even before Christmas, guys. We're stuck in just this range here. A couple of times we broke out here and here, came back into the range, right? A few times barely broke out back into the range. Yesterday was the biggest breakout we've seen since like December 19, right? And I'm sorry, not yesterday, 2 days ago. 2 trading days ago. This would have been Friday, right? We had a nice breakout continuation yesterday and gapping down today. Can this help it stay above this previous day close, right? So we'll see here how this plays out. Personally, I use the SPY for overall market sentiment and to get ideas of which way to take the trade to follow the SPY. Ben, I can agree with you on that, right? I don't like to take trades, especially with how volatile the market is, against the SPY, unless there's some crazy news. Like it has to be a very strong catalyst where a stock is either going bankrupt or something it's happening where it's not good, right? But yeah, generally with the way the SPY has been, if you have your setup, you want to go with what the SPY is doing, right? It's gonna just help you. You don't want to go against gravity here when you're taking a trade if you don't have to, right? Especially with this market, you have options. I mean, look how many tickers are out here. You got tons of options. You don't got to stick to something. Try different things. There's tons of opportunities to try many tickers, right? So Microsoft looking real good. Do we have to add Microsoft to the list? Let's see here. Prince Trader, 3-star general there with Bear Trader. So thank you for that. Microsoft, yeah, man, it's lighter volume than Apple and some other ones on here, but looks good. Definitely looks good. Worth adding as a possible. I don't want to fill up this list too much because I think what I have now looks pretty good. Even Google today looks good, because if we get some kind of drop here, I think Google can lose this support that it has here. Again, gapping down 2%, 800,000. We normally don't see that type of volume out of Google on DEX, so that looks good. Qs is another one, Ben, as well. Qs another one. The Qs are something else you could look at also. Moderators list is in. I have Thor, I have Mike, I have Susan. We'll wait for a couple of more to throw out their list here, and we'll start reading those out to you. Tonight, guys, we have Andrew on the strategy course. He's going to be talking about one of his strategies at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So please do not forget to take a look at that tonight. Put it on your calendars. It's going to be a good one. So be on the lookout for that. Tesla's popping. Yeah, heavily into the green right now. Up 1% at the moment. Yeah, some of the stuff getting into green territory. So that's looking pretty nice.
I'm in Tesla myself.
Oh, very nice.
From 119, so we'll see.
Let's hope Powell keeps saying what he's saying. Man. Whatever he's saying, the market is liking it.
It's working for the moment.
He's working for the moment. Is there going to be any Q&A in this speech he's doing?
I have no idea, man.
I hope not,
All I know
man.
is it's in Sweden.
I hope there's no Q&A. I hope it's just get off the stage after this. Leave it the way it is. Do not answer any questions. That's where he sometimes get into trouble. Many people sometimes get into trouble when the questions come in, right? You have these CEOs talking at a conference, questions come in, and that's where things go go south. All right, what we got here? Very good, very good. Our secondary list, I have Microsoft, which is a good one. But if you look at Microsoft compared to like an Apple or an Nvidia, it just seems to look a little bit better. So, but Microsoft is in play today, looking good. And again, guys, remember we're still in pre-market, right? We still got the heavy volume to come in a couple of minutes, right? So this is just pre-market activity. It's gonna get much, much better at the market open. You know what? But that's going to get better. So Danny G over in our members chat is asking, is the spread too large on Baba? It's going to get better. It's a couple of cents right now. You're looking at what? 83. I see you got a lot of bits on here. So that's not bad. You're looking at 7 cents there. And that's going to get better. That's going to get better, right? So
7, 10, 20 cents on a
yeah,
$100 stock isn't bad.
it's not bad. It's not bad. And it's going to get better. So, and again, on this one, guys, you remember you do not need to take a whole lot of shares, man. This thing moves. You could take a decent size, and you can get a dollar move fairly quickly, right? So even if the spread is a little bit wide, right, then you watch what you like, which is not really bad, as Norm said. You're not going to be taking a whole lot of shares on this thing, right? You can move pretty decent on that one. 10,000 shares of Tesla is plenty. That's it. 10,000. Yeah, that's okay, I guess. If you want to go light, Ben E, that's okay. Nvidia. Let's see what's going on there, guys. Nvidia. Yeah, just overall market stuff right now. Once he's done, we'll let this thing settle out, and then volume will come in at 9:30 for sure. But looking good right now, guys. Looking real good. Right. Well, as we wait, guys, hit that thumbs up over on YouTube. We appreciate it very much. Sitting at 130 likes. We'd love to get to 200. That helps us out a ton. And Melanie, thanks for watching. Always appreciate you being here over on YouTube. If you guys can help us do that, that is very, very much appreciated. Let's give you our moderators list so far and see what we got going on there. Gonna bring this over. Megan coming in with her list as well. Let's disable the video here, and we'll bring this over to you guys so we can see what's happening on our team's list here this morning. So as we're doing here, guys, we have Thor, so far, Baba, PFE, Amazon, TSM, Mike, Tesla, Baba, NBA, Susan looking at Amazon, Netflix, Apple, Q's, and the SPY narrowing things down, and then Megan looking at Futu and Tesla this morning. So good list there from the moderators. We'll wait for Brian to come out with his in a couple of minutes. And yeah, we're looking forward to a great open. Yes, I'm definitely joking, guys. 10,000 shares on Tesla. No, you don't want to do that. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. One tick the wrong way, you're in big trouble. You're in big trouble. So yeah. Share size accordingly, man. Share size accordingly to what you're trading. CFC, thank you for joining. Ben, thanks over on YouTube. Wait for Brian to throw out his list, and then we'll call it a day, guys. Today we have a pretty good list. I think it's going to be a great day. And you just have to be patient, especially, guys. Those first 15 minutes, stocks are usually very wild. Let's take a look at some while we wait for Brian here. We got a couple of minutes too. As we wait for this, look at Tesla yesterday. Let me show you Tesla yesterday, right? Those first 15 minutes, it could be tough. Here it is, first 15 minutes, right? You got a lot of sideways action, then the breakout. Apple yesterday, first 15 minutes, a lot of sideways action, it's building, right? It's giving you the story, right? So remember, the candles are telling you, hey, what are we looking to do here? The more candles you have, the better, the stronger your story will be. So here you have 5-minute candles showing buying pressure, 15 minutes in. Look at the nice breakout you get. Don't waste all your ammo here. And then by the time you do get the setup, it's like you're out of whack, you're frustrated, your emotions are all over the place, and you're not making sound decisions now, right? Nvidia didn't take that long. Nice engulf in here. Look at this, 10 minutes in, then a beautiful breakout. So again, just be patient with the process, guys. I know when the bell rings, you want to just, get up and go. But if you wait a couple of minutes, walk away if you have to. Go take a coffee break or go take a tea break. Do what you have to do. Wait a couple of minutes and you get better setups, right? Very, very important. So there we have it, guys. 9:15 coming up. And let's see here. We'll wait. We'll give it a few more minutes because I know the minute I get off YouTube, Brian's going to send his list. So we'll wait just a couple of minutes. Can we check out Mara? We did. I didn't like the way it was setting up this morning. $5 stock on the cheaper side. I think the fun that we had on Mara, the short-lived fun that we had on Mara is over. I think whenever this thing is in play, you're going to have other things that are going to look a lot better. So this is on my not interested list anymore, right? For now, at least, unless it gets above $10, $15, starts trading heavy volume, then we could take advantage of that. Here's Paris list: Tesla, Baba, Amazon, AMD, and Nvidia for our buddy there. And yeah, let's see what else we have going on. I think we're all set here, guys. All right, here we go. The man of the hour here is Brian's list, where he's looking at Tesla, Baba, Microsoft, and Nvidia. So filled with usual suspects this morning, which are all really, really good today. You don't need to look too far this morning to get an amazing list. All right, guys, take care. Trade safe today over on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. We're live again tomorrow at 8 a.m. with Engineering the Markets. Jared switching things up there. More of a structured type live stream in the morning, so definitely don't miss that. A lot of great information. And then Norm and I at 8:30 to get you ready for the market with our watch list. So take care, guys. Trade safe. Hit that thumbs up, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have an amazing trading day.